Hello, I'm Megan Catherin, and this is Natasha Lee Freudenstein. She is under the name of Rainbow Sutra, and I am under the name of Megan Catherin Enlightenment here in YouTube and in other places like Facebook and so forth. We wanted to address a question. So we sat quietly beforehand and just sort of went, okay, what questions are humanity asking that we could maybe answer to some degree? Okay, we can't answer anything. All we can do is put our opinions and inspirations and ideas and whatever else, and you take from that, which is all we ever do, right? So there isn't any right, wrong, or otherwise in this answer. This is just us having a mystic conversation around the question that came up, which is, what is a modern mystic and how does it relate to me? And I'll throw that to you now.
Yes.
What is a modern mystic and how does it relate to me? Thoughts,
really
feelings, and channelings, or anything that wants to come.
Yeah, it is a really interesting question because, Megan's been doing her mystic way and mystic body and things like that. And I've been chatting and sharing, and I really got that sense that, like, to own that I am a modern mystic, and that's like, okay, what even is that? It was quite a daunting kind of thing to own that energetically. What does that even mean for a little old human like me? But then when you take it into the aspects of life, it's now looking back, I can see the way that my life has been lived has always been in a more mystic way, which is a multidimensional capacity, as opposed to the human mind, which is very linear, like A, B, C, D, to get all the way to the end. It's like there's a step and a structure and a pattern and a routine. And it's like you have an expected outcome if you do these steps, and you're going to get to where you're going to go. Well, a modern mystic won't be doing things like that. In my perspective, I've always jumped around and done things here, X, Y, 3, 17, 89, So it's never seemed like there's been any sequence or way with it in that kind of structured system that we're used to. And in that sense, it always kind of felt wrong in a lot of ways, because people would say, you need to do this, you should follow this path, all that kind of stuff. But that's when you're looking at it from this perspective. But when you have a bird's eye view and you're coming in from a multidimensionality where all possibilities and all energies and all aspects are available to you, then you don't know who, what, where, or when is actually participating in integrating their energy and their consciousness into these situations and scenarios. And so there's so many options and possibilities. And so you step here to access what's going on here. And because this has opened up a doorway and an energy point, it might send you over here. But then it's like you feel like you might be going backwards, and you come like back over here and do something else. But it's never in that sense of backwards or forwards or lesser or greater than. It always just is exactly what it is. Megan puts it really greatly when she explained her bee analogy. You can find her video about bees. She might talk about that later as well. But it's lovely in that sense of, like, a bee flies to the flower until it's spent. And it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, living my life, it's like I step into a space and a place. I don't have a lot of energetic attachments and expectations, definitely not anymore. And then it's like you go from place to place and access what is there right now and what you're ready for in that energetic space and beingness. And things do flow much easier when I allow that, as opposed to when I try to create structure in a linear fashion. My brain has so many ideas and things firing constantly, and sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming because I feel a bit like ADHD and like thousands of ideas, but not knowing where to focus on. But that's okay, because then it's like I'm knowing that some of my energy and existence is working on some things over here, and then I'm working on some things over here as well. And it's like, I don't need to complete everything for it to come to fruition, if that makes sense. You can be working on something in your mind energetically. You don't know what energetic pulls and things are happening that are driving you to be in a particular place or space. And it's like allowing that heart flow to just guide you, that modern mystic way of following the flow that is completely seemingly sporadic and completely random from this level when you're looking at it. But if you're coming from above and you look at it, you can see the space and the place that is being worked with and worked on. And when that space and place has been completed, then another space and place will open and you may start the process all over again. And it can be disconcerting when you think of it in the human mind, because we have this idea that we need to complete a task to the end point. You know, we have these ideas and these plans, and I want to make this, you know, I want to make a table. Okay, I've got to buy the wood, I've got to sand the wood, all those sorts of things. What if you just actually had to have the wood and then sanded it, and then suddenly you decided that you didn't need a table anymore? You made it into a box or a chair and a box, and you gave some bits away, and it's like, it's not completed as planned, but it's completed as needed. So I guess that's a nice little, it's not completed as planned, but completed as needed in that moment. So it's like following the moments to moment to moment.
Wow. Okay. That was very good. As far as the bee goes, yeah, I've been seeing the bee quite a bit with some of the pathway that I've been set, with some actions towards what to focus on and you know, talk about in my mystic stuff and put it up on YouTube and all this sort of project that I've got. And I was saying to you that I kept getting this sort of bee vision coming through the trees, to remind me to not get overwhelmed, to remind me to just work on what you're working on, and then you'll go to another flower. And as I was saying that to you, this analogy of came that I had this field, felt like a rectangular field full of flowers that were the flowers that I would be landing on. And as I traveled across the field, I was going to get to the other side. And like you said, it didn't matter if I didn't finish all of them. The main things would kind of get done and would come together as this project. And there didn't seem to be a full-on time frame, just forward movement, but even backward movement. I could be traveling all over this field, but staying there till I needed to. And then I might come back to that flower because it's now got more to produce, but I need to wait for the flower to re-engage or have, and that's like on that energetic level. Oh, I get what I need to do with that right now. So that's that thing where you sometimes feel like you're a bit all over the place with too many things going on, wanting to do this, wanting to do that. And I feel like what is happening is, for me and you at the minute, we're getting more of this kind of, it's okay, settle down, take your time, you're moving, you're when you're looking back, you're seeing how you've been growing, you're seeing how things are happening. All this information and spiritual knowledge is coming together as that mystic being, and you're starting to live that, but at the same time share it. And yeah, it doesn't go linear. It doesn't have necessarily the same sense of, you know, past and future to it. Yet, you know, we can jump from this moment to another moment to another moment, and feeling that multidimensionality lived, not just aware of it or jumping at it through a spiritual light. It's like living it that way as well. And on top of that was when we sat in that quiet beforehand, and we sort of were like, okay, what question can we answer, kind of thing that's being put out there. The question that came to me is, what is the path to New Earth? And I thought, God, that's a big one. What is the path to New Earth? But we are talking this. And you did say, oh, I think these questions link, before we got in there, because we were like, whoa, what are we even going to say? And that's the mystic. You just in that moment of now expressing, because you've opened your system up to more than just my human and what it knows or thinks it knows, to this other expression of life that is coming through. And at that very top sort of view, I guess, is what I would call source, aware of itself and everything that is going on. And then what I call universal workings, which is sort of more of a movement level and, you know, shifting the dice around and giving people these kind of ideas and thoughts and feelings to move into place for their higher good and for New Earth, as in New Earth being a place where we are all becoming mystic ways of being and living. And in that mystic, we don't judge each other. We move where the flowers and the field feel right for us, and we're okay with that. And there's a freedom to move amongst the fields and to not have this lockdown and limitation and judgment that is what is being lived now on a majority sort of level. That distribution of things can come to different places, that the grace of that, you know, equality, where we don't necessarily go, oh, I have to have exactly what you have or the same amount. What is the value to that, do they match? But the equality of, do you feel satisfied? Is this giving you what you need? Is this where you want to be? Is this where you want to be right now? Do you want to, oh, you made a table and now it turned into a chair and whatever it was he said. Those things are okay because it's allowing people to go where they feel they are led. So it's very spiritual, embraced, I guess is the word, very open to this inspiring way of living. What is that modern mystic and how does it relate to me? I'm living it now. I can't help but live it, and it's being pulled more and more into this pathway of what is developing for me as a new earth. I'm not focused on what is going on over there so much, the illusionary space or the suffering space, or, you know, that sort of way of being. I'm more putting my energy and my thought into this sense of freedom. And it doesn't matter what is actually available and how much I do or don't have. This sense of freedom is super important within me. It is fulfillment and satisfaction and freedom to be me, to be authentically me, and to not feel like I have to restrain myself. That's sort of the modern mystic too. There's also that element of energy magic, light. You know, it's a much deeper kind of way of being that we're only really learning to explore. And, you know, not a lot of people have words for it all. And there might be some people out there who could explain it all to you. But is that how it feels for you? You know, we all have our levels and layers, and I feel like the new earth is a very big stretched kind of, there's people at this level moving along, and there's people at, you know, quite slowly maybe it feels, and there's people up here, but we're all being taken, we're all evolving. You can't stop what is happening. And what is the path to new earth? It's the inward path, but it is also that ability to change up your biotechnology and let that expression of energy come through you. All of this is mystic conversation, you know, and a lot of it to some degree you sort of go, oh, that's very theoretical and philosophical, and, you know, there's no, you know, do you have a sun? Do you have a star? Do you have a black hole, white hole? The things I talk in mystery, in the mystic body sort of scenario, the 5D body set up. To me, you do. And sure, I could use a tool like a pendulum over a chakra and say it's doing this, it's doing that. Well, there's movement, there's something going on. So I can't fully quantify what all that is. And I guess that, you know, modern mystic is opening more and more up to what is this now? What is this now? That's the path to new earth, allowing different inspirations and discoveries, and knowing that we're all at different levels of exploration in that, you know, and we may even arrive there in a totally different way to somebody else, or we may touch base with certain people. That's that traveling around the fields with the bees, right? Which flowers are the right things for you to gather up the nectars and pollens from, and for how long do you stay there? And, you know, you can simply skip over others' flowers because they just aren't smelling right for you. They don't have everything ready for you. They may never have anything for you. this is the allowance of being that kind of what you were saying, you know, that ADHD type of person, but slowing all our energy down, building the systems that create the 5D so that it isn't something that we're feeling like we're pulled left, right, and center. It changes it to more of a path, more of a direction. Whether that direction is really, it's not really an outward direction, it's the inward direction. But soon things come out. As a result, things come out, and what you're saying and how you're behaving, it's quite different, isn't it? You're just like, whoa, who's that? And, you know, and you honor yourself. If you feel angry or grief or triggered by something, or feel like you have to put your boundaries up and show a bit of anger, you do it. But learning to not hold that, not be stuck in it, not have it keep you in a certain part of the field, just processing differently. That's all part of the exploration of this. It is an adventure. It is a path that is not your regular kind of path, you know. So it requires leaps and jumps and all sorts of things that go on.
Dives and
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
And like, you know, when you go to the pond and you throw a rock in and you see that ripple effect, but the rock has just fallen down to the bottom. The rock doesn't know the ripple effect that it's created. It's like what happens. I've noticed definitely in the last week for sure, I've become aware of more of that ripple effect that I'm personally creating in groups of people and energetic areas and things like that. It's like it's been brought to my attention from inward. You know, when I close my eyes, I actually see the energy that is circulating and spinning and twisting and expanding. And that's my ripple effect. And I leave the room and I don't know what happened when I left the room, and it does not matter to me, because I know that I was there and something happened, and I don't need to get my mind involved into any outcomes or expectations about it. It's just like, it's just the joy in I showed up. It's just like
it's that fulfillment, isn't it? It's that satisfaction in the moment and your choices in the moment, and feeling, yeah, you're not sort of leaving your energy there chasing after other people, wanting validation from them in any way. You're very contained in some way, but it's not contained where we're blocking people off. You're allowing your energy to interact. And this is all the work you've done as a light worker, as a person looking to advance and evolve, who can't sort of help it. You know, there's times when we've gone, oh my God, put the brakes on this crap. I don't want to do this anymore. Whiny human, you know, but you can't stop it, right? When it wants to travel, it travels. When you're ready to go, you go, and you can't stop the adventure. In fact, I guess the whole point of humanity is an adventure, right? But I'm not aware of what everybody else is doing. That's the bigger picture source thing, like you say. That's the ripples that are coming and going. But the more that I check in on myself and look, well, where am I anchored? Where am I slow? Where is there not working? And this is across a multidimensional layering of me as a source fractal out in the world. Coming back and sort of going, okay, and how does that relate to me here and now? And what greater energies are wanting to come in? What is this heavenly beingness that wants to congregate in me, you know? And it is totally different to who I was, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 minutes ago, I suppose, in so many ways, and just, this kind of, the rock has its, effect. But do you hang on to the rock, or do you go with the ripples, or are you the water, or are you all of it? Which part are you focused on? What's happening? Are you the air? There's various layers of this multidimensionality that we're beginning to understand, and not all of it has to fall in on me and be too much for me. Only the bits I need to know, that letting go, you say, to need to know what happened there. Did I make an impact? Did I, what do they think of me? Oh God, I fell over that chair. Well, gosh, if I'm clunky, I'm clunky. You know what I mean? It was what it was. I don't know. Maybe all the energy needed to be really rattled around there, and me throwing myself across the floor was half of that, I don't know. And that takes away, whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise, takes away that embarrassment, because
Yeah.
I don't have to feel like I have to be a certain type of person. And if someone else feels embarrassed for me, they're really just feeling embarrassed in whatever parameters they live in. I'm not living those parameters anymore and those expectations.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not an answer that is a straightforward answer, is it?
Because
There is
that's
no
the
straightforward answer.
multi-dimensional mystic way to New Earth. It's not a straightforward answer. It's not a yes or no question. It's not an exam where this is the question and this is the expected answer. The answer is your own unique answer and your expression and experience in that. You are the living modern mystic that's headed to New Earth in your own way. And the more you acknowledge that within yourself, the more you will expand and grow into that. Like those times when you have those synchronicities, or those, the numbers show up, or you're thinking about a person and then they ring you straight away. It's like those are the little things that kind of tweak our minds to something is actually happening, and something's going on here. And this is like tuning into that universal aspect of self where you are connected with the one mind, and that you're picking up on those vibrational frequencies that have always been there, but we're clearing the mind a bit more so that you can actually feel what's happening underneath all of these layers that are like kind of clouding and overcrowding the systems and the wavelengths and everything like that. So it's like just taking that time to go within, for me, has definitely been like a godsend. Basically learning how to meditate and quiet my mind has been probably the key tool for my connection with source and expansion of self into the modern mystic, because I could quieten all of those things out. I can let go of what's not mine and actually tune into what really is in here, as opposed to what's in here that's in the frequency that's been put out there constantly. It's kind of discombobulating, kind of throws you off the center. But for me, when I'm coming back into my heart and into my center, I have a very clear mind 99% of the time, without thoughts of anything happening. And that is the exact opposite of what I used to be, because I would have mega crazy thoughts going on in my head constantly. All the bad things that could happen, I could literally picture and imagine every single scenario in an instant, and think of all the things that I would do to prevent that, all of those things happening, especially with my children. And so my mind was always like in that state of like fight, flight, and freeze. But then when I was able to start quietening that just little bit by little bit, tiny bit by tiny bit, then I've been able to now find that quiet space within, and where I can hear the whispers of source and the whispers of my beingness and the whispers of that truth that is always there, and it's always been there and it's always been flowing. We just can't quite hear it. Maybe you see it, maybe you feel it, maybe you sense it and know it. But I say hear because it kind of resonates kind of well. But when you feel that from within, then you're tuning into your New Earth way of being, your modern mystic, and you follow those flows. And it's like, it might not make logical sense because it's not meant to. It is not meant to make sense in the mind. If you can make sense of it in the mind, it's probably a 3D constructed structural system.
Yeah, I think on top of that, I would add, for me, yeah, I had that busy mind, same thing. But it wasn't my thoughts that I learned to follow. It was definitely follow my energy. And that took me to some weird places. I had some very imaginative experiences, and thoughts come back when I followed my energy and I brought my energy back. And I couldn't tell you that there was something definitely going on, because nobody could measure it and show me that, but I could feel it in myself. And I really woke my body up that had been shut down and started to feel stuff. And that empathic sort of nature of my energy, I realized how much it was across universes, in all sorts of places, in other businesses that weren't serving me now in any way, shape, or form. I realized how interfered it was, and all these stories would come up of me on other planets and different time frames of Earth and all sorts of things with different mythical animals and beings and all sorts of weird stuff. And the only way that I knew that it felt true was because it felt relief to know this. And I didn't need to know the full story. I didn't have to get all that. I just had to get those key things and recognize, okay, how does this relate to my body? And let that go. And I would see, literally, not personally see, but have these impressions of myself untangling my energy, or, you know, pulling swords out of my body, or all sorts of weird and wonderful things of that way, that when I gave myself permission to go, yeah, I'm just going to go there, I have shifted from a very, very busy, depleted person to someone who's got a lot of strength in her energy, who can walk into a lot of areas now that used to upset me, that I didn't even know upset me. The outside world doesn't upset me in the same fashions as it used to. I'm sure there's still spots I'm not, ready for, or those sorts of things. But again, I'm being taken to these things. That's the other thing, allowing myself to be taken to these places, internally, externally, meeting certain people on the other side, meeting, these imaginative spaces in my sleep, or, in my dreams, or in my meditations. All of this, the willingness or the allowance of letting myself explore it, that is mystic. That is being the modern mystic now too. And that is freeing. I've found it extremely freeing. And I don't have as many of those stories and incidents occur for me now, because I've obviously dealt with a lot of it. And so things are kind of different. It's like my head is turning here going, okay, what's next now? How does Megan operate now that she's embodied more of this, now that she's brought her energy and strengthened herself, now that she's changed up her biotechnology to this level, what can she do with this now? And, who and what is happening with that? That's the mystic for me now. What can I do with this? All this energy that's coming out of me that I can't stop at times. Sometimes I have to sit and just let what they call the bubbles come out of me, and go and be a part of that, overview, and move into the pond somewhere, and then the ripple comes back and whatever happens. And I don't pertain to know how it all works, nor do I need to know how it all works, but I allow myself to be part of the workings. Modern mystic. So that's the direction for me. The pathway to New Earth has been allowing, and letting that imaginary being, the Imagineer. And I remember a long time ago having this, I'm an Imagineer, like an engineer, I'm an Imagineer. What am I creating with my imagination? And that took me into a whole different phase of, what have I created from what we call imagination, which is this, powerful energies of making, creating. And that allowed me to find all sorts of different spaces and places within myself, and across time and space and beyond, and bring it all back so that I could attune myself, rebuild myself, reconstitute myself. I have been rebirthed quite a few times in the last 10 years, and I've probably got a few more to come. This sense of your technological body changes up, and then you re-energize yourself in a new way. You're kind of bringing your spirit together in a different way, adding in different things. And I don't need to leave this body anymore to go have that review and set it all up as a soul. I live as the one soul, as part of Heavenly Source, so I don't need to know that. Source is more direct within me, and I'm allowing that. That's a New Earth experience for me. Again, still traveling it. It's an ever moving thing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And if you ask me in 5 years' time, what about this sort of conversation, I'll have a whole different picture on that,
Exactly.
Same but different, because I would have moved to a new space of understanding what I traveled, where I went. And
Yeah.
even though I can look back on a lot of the stuff, a lot of it is irrelevant now. You know, it's kind of like, well, I don't need to hang on to all those stories that I had experienced. As much as I like sharing them, and some of them in YouTube, I could have shared a lot more, and I possibly will, but I still wait for what's the right thing to share, that I can add in some extra to, that, you know, I'm getting the, oh, here's the story of the human that lived this, but here's also the story of the human as she is now and how she sees it. And then here's the greater spirit coming through me, telling me other words and bits, and I'm still growing from this same experience, having it differently, but the key themes within it are still there for me to empower myself with, rather than disempower myself with.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Wow. It brings me back to something that came to mind earlier today, was the only constant in this world is change. And that has just come up today twice now. So I'm like, yeah. And you reiterated it with your, you know, this is part of you in that story, but it's not you now. This is you telling the story, then this is you with the knowledge and wisdom from all of that sort of thing. And it's like,
there's like a key thread of me all the way through there, you know, this exploration. It's almost like a finger of God or source coming through me, you know, and wherever it went. And yet there's other fingers too, you know, and then I'm weaving those fingers together now in a new way, because I've become so aware of them all. They become part of my energetic makeup. And yeah, I'm different, same but different. It's like the sameness of me is that part of me that beats with the heartbeat, you know, and is in tune with the source, and allows this kind of movement, change. Yeah, but there's still this constant in there, this core feeling of allowing me to be me. And, you know, I may have set up different ways of operating, but there's still, you know, I guess that's why personality tests and those various human designs and things, and even your, astrology, when you were born, astrology, yeah, they all have relevance at certain times. But as I came to know myself, you know, yeah, I'm an Aquarian, and I still have a certain trait to that and a setup to that relates, because that's what this part of me. But at the same time, all those zodiacs are part of me. It's just what's more prominent, you know, at this point in time. And so I don't feel like I relate to just that. I relate to all of it, because it is the stars anyways, is it not? You know, it is the one speaking through us all, the unity of life anyhow. But again, it still has its own version of me. So I'm totally unique in this moment, and again in the next moment, and in this moment, I'm changing, but I'm the same, and there's movement in me all the time. And I don't know, it's just getting used to that, allowing.
It makes me think of that onion analogy. It's like you keep peeling away the onion, there's still another layer of onion. It's always an onion. But what happens in the middle at the end of the onion? Is there still more onion? It's just always. See,
I used to, years ago, when I was very focused on the soul integration stuff, I used to see that onion, and I was peeling away those layers that made me cry, because I had a lot of grief, right? And grief from sadness that was just a built up energy force that was within me. I had to follow what it was. And I then eventually got to this point. They said, now you're an orange, you're a bud of an orange, and you can start growing. And it was like, you know, that's when I then went into this very big exploration of essential oils. And it was this thing of, oh, orange is joy. And I was like, oh, that makes total sense. I'm feeling and allowing more and more of my joy. I still onion. Yeah, I still had the onion, because let's face it, I'm both those things. I'm all vegetables, right? I'm organic. So I'm all those energies, but which ones were most focused at that time, and how does it feel, and what wants to come through more? And over time, that orange became the light of grace, you know, and a whole spectrum. And so all these things are built upon themselves, and yet there is still this kind of thread. And so, yeah, squeeze the orange, all this juice would come out. Where does that juice go? What does that juice do? You know, zing, 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 like, you know, all this stuff. And yeah, I guess the whole world is there's part of me that goes, a cesspool. All right.
I was thinking
I was like,
vegetable
oh, that's
pie.
funny. It's not exactly where I was going, right? But yeah, okay, there's the cesspool over there. But you know, yeah, I guess that's all the things that have been eaten and put into the cesspool, right? So it's all still part of us in some way. But I choose to be more focused on the juice of the orange and the joy and all that sort of stuff. And I feel more clear because of it. I don't feel like my energy is all the cesspool and overwhelming. You know, it's like, I don't know. I can't even I don't know why I went to cesspool. Because it does remind me of, I went through a period of time where I used to talk about being in the soup and bumping up against everybody else. You know, oh God, I just bumped up against a kidney bean and they gave me the shits, right? And I used to just have this sort of, oh, it's all too much. And it was all this analogy of energy, basically, and other people's energy. And it was this thing of,
and now, Megan, how do you feel about kidney beans?
Yeah. Oh, I like kidney beans, but yeah. But yeah, they can give me the shits if you eat too many. But I felt like, oh, I need to lift myself up out of the soup and be in this clarifying water. What is the water that was poured into the soup to make that? You know what I mean? And that's nothing. Just now I look at soup completely differently. I'm making soup and I've just literally made orange soup. I had pumpkin, carrot, sweet potato that was orange, onion or something, and a bunch of beans, all different, 5-bean mix. But I actually had 2 oranges, and I thought, I wonder what it would taste like to put orange in that soup. And I did actually cut open these oranges and put this orange, chop them up and put them in there. And it's a different soup. It's quite tangy and different. And when I first had it, because I put it in overnight back into the fridge sort of idea, had some the next day and went, this is weird, this soup. What's different about this soup? Forgetting I'd put the oranges in there. And then at some point went, oh yeah, that's the tangy orange, like, you know. So it's kind of like we're trying to sort of slow down and get into all the real frequencies of what is this more purified spirit of creation, what is the molecules of it, and what is the spirit nature of it. It's all source, but you know, which parts of it am I taking and which parts of the spectrum am I dealing with in that particular frequency and bandwidth, and how do these combinations work? So then I take my orange juice and I go and put it somewhere else, and it's a completely different thing. It's this bizarre soup. But then I go and put it in, you know, a glass, and it's very pure and joyful and zing and wakes you up. And then I go and put it into a mixed salad, and it's completely different again. So I put it in the smoothie, it's completely different again. Right? So I don't know. There's all these kind of, to me, it's like these are the creational molecules of life, and we're life energy, and we're playing with all of that. That's the mystic power that I want to walk into. That's what I want to discover, or am discovering, just by talking about it, because the only way I can super process is to talk. It's the human nature. Well, that's my nature. I'm a talker of things. But at the same time, I'm feeling it as I'm feeling it. It's a flow. And I've had to really separate myself from what is the illusion, what is other people's stuff, what is me, you know, fingers in other people's pies, and what is, and really change up my energy field. I've changed myself from the cesspool, and I am a much more clarified kind of soup pond where the ripples happen, right? Feeling the ripples differently. And yeah, I love that the world is always an analogy for us. It is symbolically our way of visioning and seeing, and so it's always an invitation to understand something different. If it becomes that flag that, you know, feels like a guide, like you said, I've twice now heard this about change, so it's a guide. It's coming in again and again for you to feel it in a different way. Okay, don't wrap your brain around what you know. What are you feeling? What is coming from that feeling? And you may not have a response from that feeling until 3 days later, and it may come from outside you with the interaction of the ripple effect. But again, you are the core energy of life here, being a source feeler, putting your little feelers out, moving the energy. You are a mover of the energy, right? Or you are being moved upon if you are not moving your own energy. Yeah. Woo!
definitely.
How do you feel?
Love
Feel
that.
like we answered the questions to the best of our natures right now? Come to the
Absolutely.
end. Feels like that.
It's 100%
Yeah.
perfect answer.
Whatever that, there it is. Take or leave it. Take the bits you want. Feel what felt. You know, it's all
Take
what
the
notice
words
what you
if you want
notice.
the words.
Yeah,
Take the energy if you want the energy.
and we're not here to give the full answers. We're here to inspire your own discovery and your own adventure. And I guess a modern mystic will always bring things back to their own and feel it for themselves. Always, yeah.
Definitely.
It's such an awareness of yourself, but not in an egoic kind of, hey, make sure you're all aware of me and look what I did. You know, it's more I'm aware of how and what is going on energetically and how this is feeling for me. And it may be, I'm walking through this and not really feeling anything. This isn't bothering me, yet I can see how bothered everyone else is and what a problem is, but not feeling it. So there's this observant sort of part of you. Yeah.
All good. It's all good. I'm good
Yeah.
in this space and place.
Yeah.
But always, if you do have questions and concerns, or if you even want to share what modern mystic means to you, definitely share them with us. Comment, contact us, find us. You have our names there and the links and all the things and all the places and spaces. Share your experience of what modern mystic is to you and what is the way to new earth for you as well. You know, I love hearing other people's experiences because it makes that the impossible possible, because I only have my perspective from the angles and the access that I have from my life experiences. And when somebody else shares theirs, it opens up to more possibilities of like, I never thought of that. I never even imagined that possible. And then it makes it actually brings it more into the possibility of the reality realm.
And the other side of that, you know, if you put a comment out and you're looking for a response from that, you may not get one because it may not resonate. It may not mean anything. It might be like, well, that's good for little great. Here's a little love heart or a thumbs up. But, you might not get the comments and responses you want, because a modern mystic will be, okay, that felt good to process, or that felt good to make solid, or that felt good to kind of see it, when you're just thinking something, but now you're writing it, right? Or writing it. And, when you kind of get these different ways coming at you, that helps with your perspective and understanding and your own version of stuff. Can't really deny we're always doing stuff for ourselves, right?
Definitely.
There's an overflow and there's this, receiving and giving, but at the same time, central point, everywhere you go, there you are. So you better love who you are, better enjoy yourself, right? Feel the satisfaction of you. That's the point of the direction we're going in, creating that in all of us as New Earth. So, and that makes allowance for everyone else. It gives permission for everyone else to be that way too, And then what can we do when we start interacting like that as those kind of people? Let's go find out.
And then what? Oh, like the steak knives, and those old steak knives ads, and there's more, and you get this little knife, and there's more, and they just pull out another surprise, and there's more, but wait, there's more. There's always more.
Never-ending story, right? It's always that's the beauty of being an earth human, I suppose. Not sure why I clarified it as an earth human. More to explore. Anyways,
Something
all right. So if anyone is interested in diving deeper, you have my Mystic membership, which has now got a 7-day free trial on it. I just put that on. They've added that into Patreon, so I was like, oh, that's cool. Come and try it out. Come and join us on a Monday and have a look at some of the other stuff and see what you think. So some of you will find it's your cup of tea and others may not. So that's it. Love yous. Subscribe. Keeps us brave. Keeps us coming back. And share to your friends. Yeah, share the vibe. So thank you, Natasha. Appreciate you being here, Megan, for another mystic conversation. Okay, guys. Bye.